Man, it's so crazy. I remember thinking I was pissed when FedEx happened because I was like, shit, people are gonna want prints tomorrow, like the next day. That sucks, man. That makes my job so much harder.
Well, you had to go in and develop them
Seriously,
all, right? Yeah.
I had to go like, but I got to go print and send it out. They'll call me and they want it. They're expecting it by tomorrow. And now it's just like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, you
instant.
didn't send it yet, you know? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was actual prints that I've lost some negatives because there was magazines that wanted. It just bums me out. There's magazines that wanted to work directly from the negatives
Mm-hmm.
or the slides, and
Hmm.
so I'd have to send those to them, and sometimes I wouldn't get them back.
Really? Wow.
I th-
Yeah, there's a few cases of that happening.
so what's your view on like right now I have my iPhone and like I could come up with a filter and it would look great. Do you kind of frown on that, or like are you kind of an OG with like the old equipment, or what's your kind of view on that?
Oh man, I love. Are you kidding? I'm super lazy. I'm old now, man. I love the filters on the iPhone. Um, yeah, I love it. It's great. I mean, I have mixed feelings about it. Look, I, I try not to be an old jaded curmudgeon. It's hard not to be sometimes. Like, wow, when I was shooting,
Yeah.
uh, I love what happens with film when light hits it. It's way different. It's organic. There's weird things that happen. There's refractions, and sometimes you just never know. My very first thought with digital when I shot it and I got a digital camera, I was like, shit, this is perfect. Like the photo's perfect, the lighting's perfect, everything's perfect. There's no flaws. There's no, and I just yeah, it just kind of bummed me out because some of my favorite photos are the ones where I've always embraced, you know, grain or like there were so many photographers when I was in school. They were trying to be Ansel Adams, and when I say that, they're trying to eliminate the grain in film. They're trying to make it, and here I am like trying to enhance all of those things that people we're trying to get rid of. So there's no rules in art, right? So you can just,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, what I do to kind of rather than bitching about it, and I talked about those pilot lights, I go back. I still have my Pentax K1000,
Nice.
so I will show up with that and a 50 millimeter lens and just use that. So rather than, I mean, I have the nice gear with the, to fan, like they keep making it just more and more and more. It's ridiculous. It's insane.
Yep.
Like
Well, and
who the
that's
fuck needs 100 megabyte, like a
yeah,
camera that,
yeah.
I mean, I make big prints, but
But
I
that's not
love
real
film.
life, right? I mean, that's everything
Yeah,
is skewed towards curated, and it's this is we're gonna put this out the way we exactly want it to look, like you said, perfect. And a lot of the cameras and technology today make that super possible, but like some of those beautiful things that you find are from those flaws and those the old film and the mess up on the solo. You're like, oh, that actually sounded really good, maybe we're fine with this. So those are the
right.
kind of the pieces of life that make things fun with this. So when you're creating, I would imagine.
Totally. Well, you could compare it with music. Same thing. Like you have Pro Tools. Um, we don't, organically. If you listen to music that's done perfectly on a click track, it sounds weird. If it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, because we don't, that doesn't make sense to us. You know what I mean? Like I've heard other people say this when you walk into a house, a new house, everything is perfect squared, like the walls, everything, and it just feels kind of uncomfortable. I mean, you could go on and on with the comparisons, but, um, you know, I, I think we're going back, just like there's a resurgence in vinyl. You see this resurgence with Polaroid and kind of weird plastic cameras that shoot film, and I was like, why push the film filter button when I can shoot film?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and I mean, my archive is extensive, and it's extensive with film. I still have thousands of images that I haven't really seen necessarily, that I'm trying to kind of go through, and you know, I have plenty more for more stuff. But yeah, I mean, I try and kind of look at all sides of it if I can. I will say, like, at shows, for instance, and I'm glad there's artists that are trying to. Is it Jack White that's doing it? There's some people like not letting other fans take photos at shows.
Yep, he's one of them. He's definitely one of them.
Yeah, it's cool. Like I went and saw this band. It was a while ago, but it's the last time I noticed it, where I was up front and I wasn't shooting. I like that I have my phone that I can shoot if I see something, but the annoyance of people not being aware of that there's other people around them when they're fucking doing that. You know what I mean? When they put up their phone, like, my whole thing having the camera shooting was also being conscious and courteous of people that paid money to come to the show. So like, I try and, you know, I'm tall, so I try and stay low and just kind of go in and out and whatever. And man, there's always like some drunk dude fucking holding his camera up, gonna film the whole show, and it's so distracting.
And no one will ever see it. You know, no one will ever look at that.
No, yeah, exactly. Like, really, you're gonna an hour of this shit? You're gonna post that? No.
You can put it on YouTube and it looks terrible. It sounds terrible. It's like, this isn't a proper representation of that concert.
No, are you gonna like show it to your kids 10, 20 years from now? No, you're gonna delete that thing accidentally when you're drunk next time. I don't know.
Yeah.
Lance, the way you're describing taking the photographs, at least in a professional state, is the fact that we were looking at some of the photos that you had taken, and we've noticed that there's no barricade. So unlike today's day where there's a barricade and there's like 7 photographers with photo passes for the first 3 songs, typically, you're like, were you taking these from the crowd? So you're, kind of going in contrast with people taking photos with their iPhones. Clearly, you're very conscious of not getting in people's way. So you're kind of just blending in, but taking these iconic photographs. But I noticed there's no barricade in any of these photos. So it was we go back early 90s, things were different security-wise.
You're risking life and limb in there, man.
True.
Well, yeah, that's a really good question and brings up a lot of good points. Well, the cover of my 5x1 book is a barricade. There is, but yeah, that brings up a lot of stuff. I realized pretty quickly with a lot of those shows, especially Lollapalooza and the big festivals, that I was almost a war photographer. Like, I felt like a war photographer, which was cool. Like, I wanted to be a war photographer. Early on, I had to navigate through that. So there's a few things that I did, and there's a few things that happened. So early on, the barricades consisted of plywood and like piping, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they would break and give way. I kid you not. Like, the barricades didn't get fine-tuned until, like, even with Pearl Jam, they brought their own barricade so that people, like, it became a huge thing. But what I realized, I became friends through the help of Pearl Jam's tour manager. He like kind of inspired me and helped me through this. I became really I introduced myself to the security down in the pit. Those people became like my lifeline, right? And I was nice to them. And I introduced myself before the show would start. And it got to the point where, like, they would tap me because my back, all it took was the first few times I was getting the back of my head kicked by a boot, and I have this metal piece of huge metal in front of my face. So you can imagine, like, I got my head smashed quite a few times. but they would tap me and I'd learn how to kind of duck and weave out of the way without even looking as they're pulling people over. So there's some logistics involved with me being in that pit, and like how I carried my gear and, you know, all that stuff. And also there's a photo I have, I'll have to send it to you, where it was at Rage Against the Machine and Beastie Boys in LA, and there was the plywood piping barricade.
Is this the Free Tibet concert, maybe?
No, it was something else. It was at a velodrome, like a bicycle track. Dude, to this day, that was one of the craziest shows I've ever seen and been to. Like, even if you weren't a fan of Rage Against the Machine, I've never, like, I had to leave the crowd. That barricade broke.
Wow.
So I have a picture of them doing like triage to kids under the stage. I mean, I heard it cracking and I fucking got out of there. But, so those are the logistics of that stuff. Now, the other part of it is the other logistics, like wearing all black clothing so that I could blend in on stage and not have a white shirt on. Like, wow, yeah. These are things I learned by trial and error. You know, I first show up and I'm wearing a white t-shirt and shorts and I'm very white. So like the road manager was like, dude, you gotta fucking, you gotta figure that out. You're like standing out, you're glowing. So, cause I wanted to like blend in with the monitors. Like if I had access and I was on stage, I wanted to like get as close as I could without being in the way, you know? And the other part of that is there's some photos like that shot of Eddie jumping off the stage.
Yep.
It was always difficult for me. How am I going to incorporate, you know, it gets back to kind of what we're talking about. This crowd is amazing. Look at the fucking size of this crowd and the dust and the limbs and all of the stuff that's happening. Like, how can I get that and then get this band at the same together, you know? Like, I was chasing that for years, literally. Like I have through the years of shooting all that stuff, I've come away with 2 photos where that happened.
Wow.
I kid you not. Like, and one of them is where Chris Cornell jumped into the crowd. And you can't even tell that it's Chris Cornell, but that took all tour because I would know when I knew where in the song he would do that. And I kept missing it. So like, I'm like, fuck, and same with Eddie jumping. Like I would get him in the crowd or I'd get him, you know, I never got him in the air, but I knew it was during Porch. Like that's when that shit was happening. So I placed myself like with Soundgarden, I placed myself where I usually on the side with my buddy, the guitar tech, you know, I became friends with them and same thing. They could tap I knew when to be out of the way and all that. Well, when Chris went out to the crowd, I ran to the edge of the stage.
Nice.
Not caring, like I'm not in the way of anybody, but because they're all focused on him so that I could get him in the crowd, you know? And then same thing with Eddie, like I just sat there and waited. You gotta remember I'm shooting film. So like, if I'm out of film, I gotta reload, right?
That's right.
So I can't just shoot free for all, you know, I have to like make sure that I have film loaded up. And, so I waited for that. Now, so yeah, a lot of it is just observing and then being at the right place. And I mean, this is all kind of happening through my head as this was going on. You know,
Lance, the way you're describing it is literally like military, like war photography, because you only have so many shots. You're dodging people that are, you know, about to kick your head by mistake. It's like dodging a live bullet. And likewise, you have kind of crew of people almost in your barracks that are telling you, hey, go left or right, kind of giving you orders per se. And on top of that, you've gone through enough drills or enough, war scenes to know when to capture a picture. And one that kind of stands out, that is one of my personal favorites, is the one of Eddie hanging from the rafters above.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that was kind of like that trial and error where you knew he was going to do that at some point. And the one with him, you're almost behind the monitor and you can see the figurines, the NBA figurines on the amps, and you see him hanging. It's crazy.
That's another one. I should have said 3 photos, not 2. So I would watch him during sound check. I could figure out kind of what he was going to do during Porch. And I appreciate the comparison, actually. Yeah, it was, I've never been in the military, but I did, like, a lot of my influences while I was in photo school wasn't just street photography, but it also was some of these photographers during war. I mean, they're trying to capture and document the essence of what's happening. I'm trying to be a storyteller with visual storyteller. That's what I do, right?
100%. The way you're saying it reminds me of the film A Thin Red Line. Like the way you take photographs is like the film of A Thin Red Line, which is probably one of the best war movies of all time.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot. So I'd watch Eddie during sound check. I would just kind of watch his, like, where he would be looking, and he'd test things with his feet. You could kind of just see what he was going to do. Do you know what I mean? You could kind of map out, like, where you get a rough idea at least. So for that drop in the park shot, I ducked. I was behind the drum riser, but I couldn't just stand up and stand there the whole time, because then I'd just be in direct view of the crowd. Like, my ego is healthy, but it's not that healthy. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to that's like center point. So when he climbed up, I just had a perfect, I did this whole sequence of him doing that. And then he shimmied down on the mic cord. But yeah, that's another one, because you got the crowd and the band happening at the same time.
So
that's
he shimmied down on the mic cord?
Yeah, that's how he got down. Well, he didn't shimmy down. If you notice, there's a guy on the stage holding the cord. I mean, that mic cord was industrialized, and they made it so that, because that wasn't the only time that happened. So he just, like, I think he just kind of slides down it. He kind of rappels down it, and they're like holding it so that he can get down.
So Lance, we're on this podcast, we're like the geekiest of the geekiest in terms of music. Like, we read all the liner notes and the thank yous and whatever. So, like, that photo, most people would look at Eddie. I'm looking at the starting lineup figurines on the amp. Like, was that intentional to get those in there? Was that intentional?
Man, dude, that is so geeky. That's awesome. I love that. No, that's all Jeff, man. That's all Jeff. Jeff was he still is big NBA, but that was a
huge
point.
NBA fan, yeah. Yep.
But you got to remember, I mean, I don't want to sidetrack too much, but I was reminded watching that Jordan documentary, the heyday, like, how crazy basketball was. I miss it so much. That was the heyday of basketball. You're talking like 92. I mean, dude, Jordan was like all of it.
With the Sonics, right? You had Kemp, you had Peyton, you guys were good.
Yeah.
Detlef Schrempf.
Tell me about it. Dude, tell me about it. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah.
I fucking stopped basketball when the Sonics got fucking sold. But so there was a method to that lineup sitting on the amps. Yes, you are correct. I'm sure you're not the only one that spotted that. I'm saying that because I know Jeff well enough to know, like, you know, those weren't the only figurines he had. Like he was specific with which ones he put on top of his amp at which time. So
we like to call that stuff nerdery, and we have all kinds of that stuff. I mean, you can see behind me. You see all the stuff I got hanging behind me. It's the stuff that we live for. It's the finding that Sean Kemp figurine and putting it up at your show so people know that you're also a Sonics fan while you're out playing music to thousands of people.
Man, you're preaching to the choir. I've saved every fucking little thing that I possibly can. Like my whole room was all the flyers of the shows I went to, which I still have. I mean, I got suitcases and boxes full of, I've had to purge quite a few times. So yes, same with me.
How you purged, man? My fiance she's kind of started to embrace it. It's taken her 10 years. But I'm just like, how I can't get rid of any of this stuff. I want to keep every little thing I have, even though some of it's garbage.
Well, that's the thing. After I moved a few times and realized that I was carrying boxes of magazines, which was ridiculous, that I never looked at, I had to just narrow down my favorite memorabilia to I just had to narrow it down. Do you know what I mean? Oh, yeah. And when you're married, your shit's got to be framed. It's so common where you're trying to fucking put a poster on the wall and it's like, no, you got to frame that shit.
So Lance, I don't know if you can see here, but I have, it's all framed.
Yeah.
It has to be framed.
You can get away with it if it's framed. Your lady will be more forgiving if it's framed.
She framed all my stuff. I was like, sweet, this is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you got a good one. Keep her.
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
On top of the fact that a lot of the stuff's, the promo poster that I showed you that you shot, that's from '91. So, I mean, that's out of print. Yeah. I should get that framed stat.
You should. I'm very aware that that's out of print. Yeah. I've not on purpose, I've been thrown into the Pearl Jam fan club world, which is awesome. I mean, believe me, that's a big part of how I've been able to make a living and keep doing what I love to do, and a reminder of why I do what I do. But yeah, I've come across, I didn't realize it was so extensive, but it makes sense. I mean, it's with any band that has a big following. But the little things, like Star Wars fans or whatever, it's the same thing. But there's people that have wanted photos. Well, the easy one is photos of shows that they were at, but they wanted to know what song they were playing. For instance, when I shot the photo, I'm going to remember 20 years. Right. You know what I mean? There's a lot of parts of that I can't help with. But I appreciate it. So I'm sure everybody was super bummed since there was a tour plan, because they don't tour very often.
You can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, Tone knows I'm a huge tickets? Yeah, I'm a huge fan. So me and my wife had been kind of putting a vacation on hold for a long time, and we were like, all right, let's go do something cool. We're both huge Pearl Jam fans. So I was on my phone for 6 hours total and got into 6 of the shows from San Diego all the way up to San Francisco. So it was 2 dates per, except for San Diego was 1, and then 1 in Phoenix. So I was going to follow them kind of like the old days, follow a 6-date tour on the road up to San Francisco, and COVID happened, put everything on hold. But yeah, that was my first time. I've been trying to follow Pearl Jam on a tour, the hippie route kind of thing, since I started following them in middle school. And then finally I got the chance, both financially and time wise, to just, do that thing. So like you said, the Pearl Jam community is huge, and it's such a cool community because it's people from all over the world, following them through Europe and South America and all these cool things. It's the best of all worlds. It's world travel and amazing music with this band that switches up the set list every night. And it's like a Grateful Dead thing for me,
Yeah. No, I know. I figured that out. There's people that save their money so they can fly over from all over the world. It's pretty amazing, actually. So wait, I'm not really up on the specifics. they had already put tickets for sale. Like
Yeah.
they announced the tour, but people had already bought, and I'm sure it's sold out, whatever. So, wow.
Yeah. So
That's
basically,
tough, man.
they were promoting the new album that was going to drop. It's out now, of course. Giga 10.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was a precursor to that, and yeah, the tour was announced. In fact, we've done a deep dive on the Ticketmaster controversy with Pearl Jam on this podcast. So
Yeah.
this platform that they had worked in tandem with Ticketmaster to kind of do a anti scalping platform where it's a fan to fan exchange only, and tickets are face value only. So there's really no way to mark up the tickets whatsoever. So if I were to realize that maybe I didn't want to go to the Phoenix show, or I didn't want to go up to the Bay Area anymore, that I could sell them, but it would have to be fan to fan. So it'd almost be exclusive, not even 10 Club only, but it would have to go to another Pearl Jam fan. It would be no middleman scalping whatsoever. So everything's face. And although the
Holy
face value
shit.
of the tickets are higher than they used to be, that's
Yeah.
strictly inflation. It's the ticket price is always worth it. And front to back, there's no fluctuation in ticket price. It's not like a $600 pit
It's
ticket.
nice to
and
see
then
those
a
crazy kids get
$50
together.
balcony. It's all the same. So,
dude, that's crazy. I'm really happy. I didn't know that they did that, because StubHub or whatever, like, I know I've been, if there's a band I want to go see and I just search it, there's been a few times where actually my kid had to help me, where like I got directed to where I thought I was buying a ticket, but it was one of the fucking brokers or whatever.
Yeah.
So they're all over the place, man. That's pretty amazing that they were able to. And is Pearl Jam, is it that because of what the band has done to kind of keep control over
100%.
the prices? Wow.
Yeah, like you were saying earlier, that ownership and decision making within the band organization has definitely not changed, because they were able to. I think what happened behind the scenes was basically, it's fan to fan through Ticketmaster with you guys, or we're going to just launch our own service, or we're just not going to tour at all. And Ticketmaster / Live Nation was like, oh shit, okay, yeah, we'll do this, whatever it takes.
Yeah. That's amazing, especially nowadays, considering the fact that there's not really that many bands, that are that big. Yeah, man. I have to say, like, well, first of all, okay, so you being a diehard fan, I don't keep up on things, but I did hear that the first song they released, and I thought it was super cool just because it was different, and it wasn't the formula, and it was like, I could tell that different people were playing different instruments or whatever, and I'm sure people just are always wanting to get back to that first record. I mean, I don't know, I could be making a wrong assumption, but
we talked about it.
Cool.
We talked about it when it came out, and I think we'd all come to the consensus that it's something that we want to revisit. It wasn't like a throwaway, this is just another run of the mill whatever. It had some elements of older Pearl Jam stuff, but it also changed. They changed again. They did a couple different things and kind of went a different way on 3 or 4 different tracks. So that was, we liked it. I mean, I know I've listened to it a couple times, obviously, over the last couple months, and it's grown on me. There's spots that I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. I didn't even realize that the first time I listened. So it's one of those.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, you got to understand, and sometimes it's hard to do, because I'm the same way. Like, if I go see a band that I've been a fan of since a kid, I want them to play their first 2 or 3 records. Yeah. Those are the songs that I want to hear. But, one of my favorite bands, for instance, was, I guess Devo didn't really change their music too much. But there's bands that, they get older, they progress, they listen to different things. There's different influences, whatever. Like, it's hard to kind of put yourself in that mindset, but you have to appreciate the fact that they can't just keep trying to make the same thing. Or the other side of that is they can't make music with only what the fans want in mind.
Right. And they're a band that, like, they did change it up over time, and that's kind of why they've been as big and as relevant as they've been over all these years. And they're not the only one that's been that way, and that's why that's the type of stuff that we seek out. Occasionally, you're fine with a band that puts out 4 of the same types of albums just because you love that sound, but it's nice when there's an evolution. And people change, right? I mean, you're not the same person from a 3 year ago album cycle to now, or a 5 years ago or 10 years ago for that matter. So
yeah, exactly. And as long as they don't just call it in, like you
Right.
guys can see that, we can all see through that. And if band's not calling it in, then you got to give them kind of the benefit of the doubt a little bit, even if you don't like it at first. I just thought it was super cool because it kind of caught my ear in a different way. Plus, the visual element to that whole record is mind blowing. Or just what I've seen, it's beautiful. I don't even know who that person is or what's going on. I don't even know if I really care. It's just super cool.
Paul Nicklin is another photographer. He was the one for that album.
Yeah. So I will say that it's obvious there's some digital manipulation going on with that stuff, and it's done really tastefully. Getting back to like photography wise, like I don't see digital art. I mean, I haven't really researched that much, but I'm more of a purist when it comes to photography, but that's really tasteful, So I guess that's when you do need fucking 50 megapixel images, cameras that are that big. I don't know. But anyway.
So we're obviously we've all been kind of quarantined for the last 3 months or so, but before that, just before that, what were you up to now?
Well, I don't know if you're aware, but I've been dealing with, I got diagnosed in 2014 with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Wow.
So I've been, but I got through it. Let's see. Yeah, it was really bad. Like,
wow.
I was lit up like a Christmas tree, but I went through some pretty intense treatment in 2014, and lymphoma is a cancer that's chronic, like pretty common for it to come back in different ways. So I've shortened this a little bit and tell you that I've been through over the years 4 different chemo treatments, a stem cell transplant, which is a pretty intense procedure, like a bone marrow transplant, and then some radiation. And then since January of 2019, I've been on a clinical trial, which is just a pill that I take. And after 4 months, because after each thing that I did, I would have like a couple of small spots, like nothing major, but it was small enough spots that my oncologist was a little bit worried. So I was able to live life and do normal things, but anytime there was a treatment, it would kind of take away like 6 months of my year. So I wasn't able to do a lot. But since I started that clinical trial, I've been cancer free, which is, dude, mind blowing. Like, it's amazing. So I mean, thank God some people stayed in school because the dedication that some of these biotechs and some of these people working on stuff like that, because they're basically going in trying something and it fails, and then they come back the next day and try it again, just with slight variations for years until they get it right. That's like the drug I'm on is a result of somebody doing that, or a team of people doing that, and it's
amazing.
It's amazing. So I'm very knowledgeable in that world. But to answer your question, when I take this drug, the side effects are pretty minimal compared to other things I've gone through, and the term "it could be worse." I have, that bar is pretty high or low. I don't know. Either way. So it's kind of dealing with the side effects from this clinical trial. Like I said, are minimal, but they still have an effect on me, and I have to take this drug 7 days a month. But what it's done is my immune system is not, my numbers aren't too low, but when the virus, I was already kind of feeling a bit sick, but when the virus hit, my doctor was adamant that I can't get this virus.
Yeah.
Like I mean, yeah, we didn't want to take any chances.
Right. Yeah.
So I've been quarantined since like mid-March. I mean, I have somebody get my groceries. I haven't really been inside anywhere. I've been, I go around the neighborhood, and I was finally able to get up, took a drive up to the mountains, which was beautiful. But yeah, I just have to be really careful. But I had plans to be traveling now. Like, I have this idea of not really a nature photographer. It's tough for me with that. Like, I prefer humans documenting things that are happening. But I'm trying to get some stuff together where I'll be documenting or taking portraits of cancer survivors around the country.
That's cool.
That's really cool. That all changed. Cool. Yep. Yeah, I figured because it just hit. There's no demographic when it comes to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's everybody.
All across. Yeah, same thing with this virus. But yeah, shit's all different now, man. Like, life is definitely not. Just got to change it up. I think we're all, which kind of is cool. It's easy to get comfortable and complacent. So I've just been really just trying to stay present in the moment, day to day. Yep. But I've been going through dude, I don't believe in boredom, but I have, my archive is extensive. I could spend years just digging through films.
It's time for another book, man. I know we'd mentioned that in the pre-interview. Yeah, it's time.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to. I always have that in the back of my mind, and rather than just a Pearl Jam book, I mean, we talked about that, but I mean, I've shot a lot of other bands and a lot of other things, so dare I say a retrospective, just because that makes me feel old, but I am old. There's no denying it. So yeah, definitely something I've been thinking about. I know I'm sure Charles Peterson is probably getting ready to do another one. He's always seems to be working on one. So he's inspiring me to probably work on it too. So I've dug deep and been scanning some old negatives. So yeah, we'll see. It's not really books are definitely vanity, they're not really necessarily lucrative, but it's still a great way to kind of have some work documented that, you know what I mean? Yeah, like get out there. So
or get your website going, cool. Man. Get them up on the website.
Yeah, that's something I should probably finish. Man, it's such a, I don't know.
Even just your Instagram, right? You'll find some cool gems. I'm sure you post them on there, right?
Yeah, I came close to having my website done. I got all the galleries and everything built. I just need to, I even bought a template. I just get lazy, man. I'm an artist, procrastinator, professional. I have a book on procrastination. I just haven't read it yet.
Yep, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
The amount of negatives that you must have. I mean, we're looking through other bands that you've shot, like we've talked about Pearl Jam, like obviously Soundgarden. There's not a whole lot of photos that I can find for Alice in Chains.
No, sorry, I'm just doing something here. Yeah, I haven't. I didn't shoot them very much, but I did. I mean, I did a few things. They were definitely kind of in a different scene, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it seems like they're a little more reclusive to an extent.
Yeah, and Lane wasn't the easiest person to photograph,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, he was it was different. But there's a few shows that I shot where there's one shot of Lane that I really like. You have to remember too, the drug stuff started happening, and then that even kind of just amplifies the reclusiveness,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that type of drugs, those downers, they don't lend themselves to a lot of activity.
Yeah, climbing up on rafters and hanging down on
Yeah,
shimmying
exactly.
down poles, right?
I'm trying to be nice here.
That's
Yeah,
we get that.
yeah. So there's, I will say though, they were one of my, man, they were really fucking good. They're like one of my favorite bands, just as far as uh, the content, the song.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely stood apart. But it's heavy, man. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but listening to them, that's an undertaking. It's not like you just put them on background music,
Right.
Yeah.
It's
I had talked about on this podcast the Alice in Chains Unplugged, MTV Unplugged, and
yeah,
the live album is, it's like you said, you have to kind of almost be in the mind state to fully absorb it, and it's really beautiful. It's a beautiful recording. But the video version of this performance, the MTV Unplugged, was actually not released for a long time, and they put it on DVD, I'd say 7 or 8 years ago, and I purchased it. And it's difficult to watch, to kind of go to allude to what you're talking about with Lane. He definitely was struggling for a long time. So yeah, I can see where maybe he just didn't like being photographed or videotaped, and on top of the fact that he was obviously struggling with drug addiction for quite a long time.
yeah. I don't. Maybe I have seen some of that, but I'm sure he's wearing sunglasses or whatever. But yeah, he was pretty strung out early on.
Yeah.
I did shoot the Wood video. I hung out with them all day when they did that, which was pretty amazing. Like that was, one of those sacred territory things, like music video, and also just really great because it makes my job pretty easy. Things are lit up and everybody's being creative, but it took forever because he was strung out back then. You know what's fucking crazy? Like, I think about this often, is that Eddie's the only one left.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. Sad.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I mean, so much talent, dude. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys watched that Chris Cornell tribute, but I realized, like, kind of took it for granted, but realized, like, here we have all these really amazing, talented singers singing his songs, mm-hmm. and not a lot of people could hit those notes like he did. You know what I mean?
Right. He was, otherworldly as far as that went.
Yeah, which you don't realize until you get a little closer to it. But I don't know, man. It was pretty nuts. Anyway, you know what, you guys? It's 5:40.
Yeah, if you gotta get going,
Yeah, unfortunately I'm supposed to. Yeah, I'm supposed to do something at 6.
Okay.
Do you guys have any last like anything you're curious about? Any questions you have on that you wanted to ask me?
So Lance, I said we're super nerdy. Is that a Hudson Bay blanket behind you?
Yeah, you guys are nerdy.
I'm taking that as a compliment.
Yeah, it's a really old one, man. It is a compliment because I'm super nerdy about this stuff too. You know what I've been doing, man? I've been so since I can't go out traveling, because I have a 4Runner and I built it out, and I did a solo road trip last year. Yeah, I did a solo road trip last year. I did thousands of miles, made it all the way to the East Coast, and there's a bunch of stuff I haven't seen in America. I've gone through maybe, but also I asked myself the question, when was the last time I went camping alone? And I couldn't even remember. And that's what kind of started this process of, I sold my cool vintage pickup truck and did all this research and built out this 4Runner so I could sleep in it. And I just wanted to just drive, and like location and time were kind of open-ended, you know? Mm-hmm. So anyway, I've been buying stuff. I've been getting stuff that I want for traveling and for a trip. And I've been really like getting into really well made, like I bought a really cool axe, and there's all this like bushcrafting trend, which I'm not really participating in, but there is some cool stuff like being made, but I got to tell you, like, I've been thinking about making this video because there's this whole ultralight thing happening with backpackers. Do you know about this?
Yep.
Where people are like trying to get the like lightest stuff.
Yep.
And they're weighing it. So I thought about making this video where I'm just purposely getting the heaviest stuff, like a cast iron Dutch oven, but making it like it's in my backpack, like, and weighing it, and then,
So when everybody zigs, you're going to go for that zag.
The zag.
Yeah.
It's that punk rock behavior.
I love it. I love it, man.
Double ply canvas instead of like ripstop nylon. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it is funny because the bushcrafters are more about like, it makes me laugh, like lighting a fire with, a ferro rod when you just have a lighter. I'm like, really? But they're also like, their stuff, they're bringing waxed canvas camp. It's like, dude, that's like the heaviest fucking thing. Yeah, double waxed canvas. Like, really? You're going to backpack with that? But yes, I'm really into vintage, like Pendleton and Filson. We're in the Northwest, man. It's like where all this stuff, although they're out, a lot of that stuff is being sent to being outsourced and made overseas, which sucks.
Mm-hmm.
The quality has gone down for sure. So, but yeah, so hopefully I'll get out your way.
There's some fun camping areas in northern Maine, man.
Yeah, nothing. It's funny, when I was driving out there, I realized how well we have it up in the Northwest as far as camping, and just, it's a different vibe. You know what I mean? But, but yeah, up where you guys are, it starts getting really beautiful. Plus, you guys being so close to Canada, right? You're not that far?
Not far at all.
Yeah. And that area that's amazing up in there.
Yep.
So, but yeah, listen, I should jet.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for coming on tonight, man. We really appreciate it. I feel like we just scratched the surface. There's so much more we can ask. So
we'll have to do it again.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't really have anything to plug. I mean, people can go to my Instagram. Shit, I can't even tell you what my Instagram is. I don't know.
We'll post
Lance
it.
Mercer.
We'll post it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, people, I'm pretty responsive. I try and do my best. People can get a hold of me. I sell prints of all my work. That's kind of how I make a living. Mm-hmm. So I'm really approachable as far as all that stuff goes.
Let's do let's do a once a month pull from those shoe boxes, and we'll post one on our Instagram a once a month.
Hey man, that's a smart idea. Look at you. You're like taking initiative. I like it.
Hey. Ever the marketer, my friend.
Yeah. Well, you're making. I know. Look at this guy. You guys know.
I'm a collaborator. I work in the cannabis industry, so I'm always thinking.
All right. Really? Isn't that an oxymoron? Good.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Very much so.
Thinking, not doing, just sitting there, right? Into the couch, bro.
I'm always thinking.
I love it. Well,
I'm
awesome,
sorry,
Lance.
I'm not making fun of you. Yes. We could definitely do once a month. There is. I'll get a hold of you guys because I was about to do a limited run print. I think we're still doing it. I don't think it's coming up, but I'll let you guys know the dates. I totally forgot about it. It's like a first edition company. Me and Charles did it before, and I'm going to do it with Charles. We're going to do a skateboard with an image on it, and then limited edition, just small, affordable prints.
That's awesome.
So I'll give you guys an update when I know about that. God, that's reminding me. I feel like that's coming up in July.
Nice.
Or maybe it's the end of this month. Anyway, we'll figure it out.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.
All right.
It's been fun.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
Much appreciated.
Likewise. Yeah, totally. You guys are great, man.